So I know some of you are also taking the next class, so you might wonder, hey, are we going to be doing the same thing? In a way, yes. In another way, no. We're doing it from a different angle, so it's going to be different. It's not the same class. We are focusing on intercultural communication, but I still would like you to, in the process, discover who you are. Okay, so the other goal is help you explore your potential. This is something I discovered teaching the class. It wasn't my first goal, but from the feedback I've been getting from your senpai, I realized that a lot of you discover much more about yourself, that you have more potential than you thought. So more abilities, more skills, more motivation, whatever it is. And so now I've added it to the goal of the class because I know it's something that happens. And for me, these two first stages usually help you better communicate. And that's what I'd like to explain today because if you look at intercultural communication books, usually they don't have this approach. It's more about the little details about what's different in other cultures. My approach is more psychological because that's what interests me in general. And so let me explain for me why these two are connected to helping you better communicate. And this is something I've discovered for myself. If you don't know yourself, it gets a little tricky to communicate, or at least to be open to others. Because when someone is going to say something that makes you feel strange, or weird, or different, maybe the reaction will be to close down, to close the doors, to not want to talk to that person. Because it's scary. Because it makes you feel too weird about yourself as well. So the idea is that if you don't know yourself, you might have reactions that stop communication. So helping to help you understand who you are, hopefully will help you be more open to others and so be able to communicate. And I love this quote. It's something I found, I think, last year, but it summarizes what I'm trying to say to you today. And it says, how can the soul, so the soul is what's inside of you. I'm not going to try to go into more detailed explanation, but what you feel inside about yourself, which misunderstands itself, so you don't understand yourself, have a sure idea of other creatures. Creatures here means other people. It's the reason why it sounds so strange in terms of English, it's because, sorry, I didn't write it on the slide. It's Seneca the Elder. It's a Greek philosopher. So I'm not the only one who's been thinking this. A lot of people have been thinking about this for a very long time, right? The Greek here in this case. So that's the idea, right? If you get to know yourself better, you'll be able to understand others better and hopefully communicate with them. So that's why you're going to have a lot of questions about what do you think, how do you feel about it, where do you stand, what does that mean to you? Right? So there's going to be a lot of self-questioning. And why is it connected to intercultural communication? As you'll see, this is the picture I use on your student card. And this is what I don't want to have anymore. That whole separation, us and them, we're in this class, the others aren't, so they're different. Or, we're in Japan, other people are not, they're different. Or, actually, for once, I got two other French people, so we're three in the classroom. So we're three French, and you're different because you're not French, right? That's what I mean by that barrier, the making differences and separation. And I think, obviously, if you understand others, the barrier is going to be removed, hopefully, at some point. my goal is basically just all of us. Just trying to see this in this perspective instead of putting barriers, just trying to be all together as people. And it matters to me because, again, I'll use two other famous people that I immensely respect. It matters to me because I do believe this is what is at the origin of war most of the time, be it war like people really fighting or arguments or fights with other people. All right, so I know that's an easy one. I know. So if you're American or from North America, yes, that's an easy one. But I do still have a dream. I don't think we've achieved all of them. They're historical figures. So the first one is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the next one is Mahatma Gandhi. Do you know them? Well, okay, so I'll stop talking just for a second because I'm getting worried that you're not having any time. Can you tell the people around you what do you know about these two men? Okay, and then I'll get back. Something else in common. Yeah, Kevin?
Both of them were killed for their ideas.
Exactly, right. So hopefully, I won't, but I do hold similar views. I really hope that we can have equality and not just on paper, because I know nowadays we may think, oh, there is no more slavery. Yeah, right? So that is still my dream, and that's why I'm teaching this class. That's my contribution to trying to reach that, the goals that both of them had. And I have a song that I want to share with you. I try to have a song for almost every class just because it helps you remember, and also because I like music, simply put. So the song is by John Lennon. Do you know who he is? Tell someone next to you. And I want to share it with you because I like this part of the song, especially when he says, a brotherhood of man, imagine all the people sharing the world. So that's what I was telling you before. That's why I don't want the us versus them. I want the brotherhood, that we see each other as people that we can appreciate. I'm not saying that you need to like them or love them, but at least appreciate that they are human beings and you can respect them for that, just for that. So the idea of brotherhood, right, like a brother-sister type of relationship. And the other reason why I'm sharing this song, it's not him singing it, it's going to be another situation, and it's just to connect, to show you why I think it's so important to try to live together as one instead of as us versus them. So I'll show you the video. And I know, I can't help it. But for especially the non-native speakers, if you want to try to catch, I removed some of the words actually. So it's in your booklet if you want to try to catch the words. Just wanted to show you. So these are the missing words. And some of them were on the, I removed them because I wanted to talk about them. Others, it was just more if you could catch what they were saying. But the one that I especially wanted to talk about before talking about religion is the concept also of countries. And I know it's usually a big part of who we are, right? I identify myself as French, and I say, oh, we got two other French people. So yes, belonging to a country is a big part of who we are. But if you think about it, that also creates barriers. Sorry, hang on. You need to see this. Yeah, here. There was the dreamer. And I know it sounds like a big dream, and it probably is, but I'm not going to stop dreaming, basically. Right? That's kind of the decision I made a couple years ago, and I will definitely also share it with you as my students, but also with as many people as I can when I go travel and especially go to conferences. That's what I usually do. So the idea of dreamer. And again, so the dream, as I said, for me, the idea of brotherhood, right? Breaking down the barriers. And the reason I chose this version of Imagine, it's not because I don't like John Lennon singing it, but the context of the song is a good example of what happens when that brotherhood does not exist. As she says at the beginning, it's 40 Jewish children and 40 Arabic children. Can you guess in which country this is taking place?
Israel?
Yep, exactly. Right, it's taking place in Israel. And I'd like you to discuss what you know about Israel and Palestine. Anything you know or don't know, or the ideas you got about them, and also if you know who Shimon Peres is. Right? If you don't, that's fine, I'll get there, but just if you know, I'd like you to go ahead and be able to share that with people. So you've got 3 minutes. So basically, Israel and Palestine are usually called two enemy states, and I have to put states in air quotation marks because actually Palestine is not recognized as a country. Right? Only Israel is, and we'll see in a minute why this is crazy. For me, what was interesting is that they sang at the birthday of Shimon Peres. Right? So they were in Israel, probably should say Israel/Palestine. And I don't know if you noticed the sign it was on the right upper hand corner. They had this symbol. Do you know what that symbolizes? Tell the people around you, what is this symbol? Yeah, right, peace, right? So that's the symbol for peace. And it's a real issue, as you probably see in the news. I mean, nowadays we got other things going on with the terrorist attacks. So the whole concept of Israel and Palestine, maybe nowadays we don't see it so much in the news, but they've been fighting basically since Israel was created in the 1940s, at the end of the 1940s. And they've been fighting enemies because of what I was saying earlier, the whole concept of countries or borders. So when Israel was created after World War II in 1946, Israel was supposed to be the white on the map. And the green was Palestine, because basically Palestine was there before Israel. So that was 1946. That's how it should look. And then you got 1947 in 1 year. That changed quite a bit, right? The white became quite big, and now this is 1949, 1967. It's getting even smaller. The green is getting even smaller, and that's about 2000. So basically, there's almost nothing left of Palestine. So one of the reasons they're fighting is for this. It's for land. Right? This is like Mark was doing. This is my territory, this is your territory, you don't come here or we get into a fight. The other thing that sometimes they use is also religion. So that's why I think the song also says, and no religion too, because a lot of people do fight for their religion, and as we see right now with all the terrorist attacks going on in Syria, in Europe, in all these, Syria and Europe, let's just talk about those. So that's the idea, right? If you see, there is Mark, there is a big barrier here because that's his area and that's mine. If he crosses, we're going to get in trouble. That's when we can't communicate and we can't have peace, basically. Right? So try to see beyond this. And with Japan, I don't want to start stirring it right now. We'll get to that, but the Senkaku Island, just one, right? Just one little tiny island. Tiny, 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 right? That's another one, problem with borders, just to give you an idea for Japan. And so Shimon Peres, it was his birthday they were singing at. And what's very interesting with this man is that he was General Shimon Peres, and then he became president. So he was not in the military anymore. So when he was younger, he was a very radical military guy, so he had no problem going out and taking land fighting, right? When he became president, he changed a little bit. He's been more open to talking with Palestinians, and I think the song was meant to encourage him to do this, right? To stop the fighting and try to communicate and discuss with Palestinians so that people can live peacefully on both sides. So that was for his birthday, and that's for me one way to show the power of music, using a song to try to get a message across, so that he would try to stop the crazy fighting. Hasn't worked too well so far, but hope, right? We need to keep that alive, so hope. All right, so I'll let you chill out for 3 minutes, just go ahead and try to see what you've understood from today so far. If you have any questions, then you can ask me, okay? So you got 3 minutes. And if you want to meet someone else, you've got the list. I'm missing a couple of you because we got a new student and we've got one who didn't give me the card. So probably we've got 2 new ones. So if you want to meet someone new, then you can check it for week number 2. This is part of your assessment for participation, to meet new people. And it's a way for you to see how many new people you're meeting every week. Just to get going with the whole concept of ethnocentrism, if you took last semester, you know where I'm going, so hang in there, because he knows where I'm going. And I'd like you to see, to watch a couple pictures. I will explain more, but I just wanted to explain that one. I don't want you to focus on the fact of him sticking his tongue out. He's Maori from New Zealand, and it's part of a traditional dance. If you watch rugby, you might have seen the haka, when the rugbymen go into that stance and start doing, that's part of a traditional dance in the Maori culture. And sticking your tongue out is a show of respect in Maori culture. Okay, so I know this looks weird, but that's not what I'm focusing on. You'll see with the other pictures where I'm going. But I won't talk, so just look at the pictures and then you can discuss what you think about these pictures, actually. So that's my first. Before you discuss it, I'd like you to go ahead and write a mind map. You've got space on page 7 for this week here. So just have the word tattoo, and then whatever words come to mind. When you think of tattoos, what does that mean to you? How do you feel about it? And then you will be able to share that. Okay, so you've got a couple of minutes. Go ahead. What do you think when you see or hear the word tattoo? Go ahead. All right. I won't be able to let you read the things about tattoos in other cultures, so I'll have to summarize it because we're running out of time. But the reason I'm using tattoos is because we are in Japan, and if you're not Japanese, as you may have noticed, having tattoos in Japan is not an easy thing. You can't go to onsens most of the time. Sometimes swimming pools are a pain in the and other places, public places where you're going to see your tattoos, sometimes you have signs that say you're not allowed to enter, right? Where in another country I might not be using this because maybe it wouldn't have such a big impact. But in Japan, it's still such a big thing that I keep using it, and you'll soon know why. More, because it's connected to me as well. But so the idea is that being very specific using tattoos is just to show you that if you're Japanese, you're going to see with Japanese eyes. So what your experience, your culture is connected to tattoos. If you're French, you're going to see with French eyes. If you're American, and by the way, is everybody else American? Because I'm making a huge assumption here. If you're not French, you're Mexican. Okay, sorry. So here we go. If you're Mexican, you're going to see with Mexican eyes. It's connected to. It's a filter you have. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with your cultural background. I just want you to notice it, right? That we see things based on what our experience is, usually from our culture. That's what I start. Then we'll talk about our experience as well, but that's my starting point. So, let me go. Can't go. So no, you will not read. I will explain it to you. The reason I chose New Zealand is I lived in New Zealand and I was mainly with the Maoris in New Zealand. So that's also why I chose the first picture from the Maori guy sticking his tongue out with a tattooed face. And in New Zealand, tattoos, I discovered it when I was there. I had no idea what that they meant for them. But actually, tattoos are super important. Not as a fashion thing, not as a personal statement. It's got a deep cultural meaning, especially for the older generations. Nowadays, it depends. Some younger Maori, so the original people from New Zealand, have very strong beliefs in their traditions. Others don't care. Right, so you might meet different people connected to how strongly they believe in their tradition. So as you can see, this is a super old picture. I think I dated in your booklet. That was around at the beginning of the 20th century. So basically, the original people from New Zealand are called Maori, and this is what they looked like. Their whole face, for men, was tattooed. Everything. And actually, if you weren't, it meant that you were nobody. The facial tattoo showed who you were. And if you look in your booklet, there's a map, actually, to understanding what the tattoo mean. And it's very specific. It's quite incredible. So in the center forehead, so here, you would have your rank. Maori culture is it's based on hierarchy, right? There's the chief and the sous-chief and the blah, blah, blah. It's based on hierarchy. So you've got, for every single area, it means something. So the rank, the position, again, the rank, because they might have military, and they might have just social, and they might have within the village, and within the family as well. First and second marriage, yes, they were allowed to marry more than once. It's not just Muslims who can do this. Their signature, right? My signature is this. Well, Maori people have it on their face, right? That's my signature. They wear it. They used to wear it, for most of them, on their face. What type of work they do? It's on their cheek. If they have magical power, it's on their chin. And the jaw, it's the birth status. So are you the firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn, depending on all that. So literally, back in the old days, you looked at someone and you could know who they were. So I compare tattoos to an ID card. Right? It's like, it's your ID. Instead of showing a piece of paper, it's on your face. People know who you are by just looking at your face. I'm not showing it in the slides, but for women it was much less. It was usually the nose, the upper lip, and the chin. And nowadays you still see a lot of women with the chin. The nose, not so much. I haven't seen any when I was there. The upper lip is just a line around, the natural line of your upper lip. But the chin, the one you see in the picture, is actually still very common. You see it a lot for Maoris. For Maori women. So that's one thing, right? So for Maori, the one who are still traditional, it is a big deal. Tattoos mean a lot, right? And the other perspective, it's the next one, it's in human trafficking. And this I'm bringing it back to the US and Spain. Right? And just to give you an idea, so when I said earlier that there's no more slavery, officially, yes. If you look at what's happening in the world, not so much. So what I'm talking about today is children's trafficking, especially prostitution. So children who are forced to prostitute themselves. And that's part for me of modern day slavery. They're not free to do what they want. They are forced to make money by having sex with people they don't necessarily know or even like, for that matters. So, and it is a big phenomenon, and not just in poor countries, because I on purpose didn't choose, Nepal, which is very common usually, but I'm actually using the US for that. And so you can read the estimates, but just to show you in terms of human trafficking, prostitution in the US is the biggest one. And what happened in this, I don't want to call it sector of activity, in this situation is that tattoos are used to mark the children to show that they belong to a pimp. And I did write what pimp was in Japanese. So the tattoo basically shows that the child, or I should have actually written the child belongs to her pimp. And they go to some pretty extreme, I don't know, I find them pretty extreme. The fact that the prostitute becomes an object is obviously horrible. This is just the idea to help you understand. This is actually not a prostitute. It was a movie star. We thought it would be fun to have a barcode on her neck. It's the idea of turning a human being into an object. And I'm using San Diego because I go there a lot because my brother doesn't live too far from there. As you can see, her pimp made her have the tattoo of his name inside her lip. Just remember, a tattoo is a needle that goes super quickly and puts ink in your skin. In the lip, I'm like, you are so mean. I mean, the pain that must have caused that poor girl, besides the fact that she has to work for him, is to me incredible. And in Spain also, it's become popular to do this to, they're not kids in Spain, they're more women. In 2012, and they did use the barcodes in that case. And they were tattooing them on the wrist, and you could see the price, how much she had to pay back. So that's the, from the police, I'm not sure where. Hang on.
Yeah, I couldn't tell her. Elbow?
No, here.
Wrist?
Yeah, the wrist here, right? So, for instance, this woman owes $2,000 to the pimp, so she has to pay that money back if she wants to be free. So, here I'm trying not just to depress you, but just to show you that in another context, tattoos have a completely different meaning, right? In this case, it's horrible. Thankfully, I wanted to have something a little bit more positive connected to this. If you're from North America, you know what that means, but a lot of people like to be labeled with their religion, and in this case, for the guy, it's very important. So it's a Christian tattoo artist, and he's working with the police, and he changes the tattoos from showing that you are either a prostitute or you belong to a gang. When you're a gangbanger, usually you also end up with a tattoo either on your face or usually it's the arm. You may have a teardrop. You have also shark on the neck and things like that. So when those people get out of the gang or can escape the prostitution, they still have the tattoo. So they want to cover it up. So there is this guy who helps them with that. And so can you see it? Hang on. There you go. So that's a gang tattoo, and from San Diego. And so that was the original one, and then he created a peacock on top of it so that the tattoo is covered. So now it doesn't look like a gang sign, and the person might be able to have a normal life. Not so sure sometimes about that part, but at least they're not identified with the gang anymore. So that's for me yet another point of view, right, on tattoos. So yes, it can be terrible, but then it can also be used to cover up something terrible. Oh, that's another one, like in the neck part. I thought that one is pretty hard to cover up, right? I mean, unless you're going to wear a scarf the whole time. So needing to change that. And that's the guy with his wife. So what I'm trying to get at is, in Japan, tattoos have a huge impact. Because you think that it belongs to the Yakuza, right? From the gangsters. And I understand, it's part of the culture. It's got a actually rather long history, even though sometimes I kind of wonder about how long that is. And what I'm trying to do with that is just to open you up and show you that tattoos have so many meanings. And I can't start listing all of them. What I'm trying to get across to you, what I would like you to understand is try to be open and understand the reasons behind the tattoo. Not just judging from what you see first, but try to discuss with that person and understand what the tattoo. There is a lot of culture, that's what I'm focusing on, but there are also a lot of personal reasons, and we'll talk about that next week. So realize that, yes, your culture makes you see tattoos in one way, but in another situation, in another country, with another person, it might not have that meaning at all. So that's the idea. And I use tattoos to be very specific, but it works with everything else, right? That's how we see the world. We have cultural filters. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just want you to realize we have them and notice them so that you can be better when you judge people, right? And again, the judge part, that's a little problem for me, but I know we all do it. It's survival anyway. And it's just when you judge people and you don't think about those filters, that cultural filter, that's when it's ethnocentric, and that's when it becomes a problem. That you have the filter is normal. You're Japanese, I'm French, they're American, Mexican, whatever. That's normal. But if you start judging others using your filter, that's when it becomes a problem, and you might become racist or discriminatory or whatever you want to call it. So think about this, right? That yes, you have a cultural filter. Be aware that you have it. So to kind of give you a hint on how to avoid that, well, maybe ask yourself, how does the other person see the world? Right? It's how you see it, but maybe stop for a second and, oh, how about that person? How does he or she see the world? I hear that a lot in Japan. I'm not sure why you like that expression, but I'm using it because I know that talks to you. What's his or her color? And I'm not talking about skin color, right? It's a Japanese expression I'm just using in English. And just try to understand. The reality, it's when you put pieces together. My reality, your reality, others' reality. When you put it together, then you have a reality that is more inclusive, not exclusive. Time, but I wanted to finish this. Thank you. Please, if you could read in more details what's in the booklet, because I didn't have time to let you read, that'd be great. In any case, please write your class feedback and give me the paper, the card back, so that I can read what you wrote and know where you're at. So class feedback, and then you can go. Thank you very much.